life rather poor. Even as the eldest child, I was wearing hand-me-downs. Yeah, and we actually also moved around quite a lot. So growing up, it was rather difficult to find groups of friends to engage with because I kept having to redo this and redo this. And as that happened, and as I grew more and more, this started manifesting in the way that kids do, in that I started getting picked on quite a lot. And I remember so clearly as I went from school to school or city to city that I always thought, maybe this time they won't know. Maybe this time something will be different. But no matter where I went, there I was, and they always knew, somehow. So eventually I started to realize that there was something with me. And I started to play with this sort of new identity. I started to put on a bit of a suit. And this started actually working really well. I ended up getting groups of friends, hanging out with people, and learning to socialize with this identity. Fast forward a bit, university, business. I started my first business when I was 21, and the suit keeps getting refined. And it actually really made me quite successful. I had every opportunity, and I took every opportunity. Every goal I set, I hit. I think by the time I was 27, I was making six figures. And I started multiple businesses. I was running a modeling agency. I was going to all sorts of parties, business functions. I was actually drinking quite a lot. And I thought I was having the time of my life. By every measurement that I had been taught by society of what is success, steak dinners, nice suits, car, house, girls, promotions. I got my MBA paid for. But still, something was missing. Every time I ticked that box, every time I got there, every time I got that promotion, every time I got that new house, oh, what's next? Every hill I climbed, there was another hill just out of reach. I had momentary happiness, and then I'm like, oh, now I'll be happy when I get there. Now I'll be happy when I get there. And so I started to see through this illusion just a little bit. And it all came to a real focus one day when I went to the doctor and they told me I had sleep apnea. And I'm like, oh, well, how do I deal with that? I just lose some weight? He's like, no, you're not particularly overweight, so you just need to buy this machine and you just sleep with that for the rest of your life. I'm like, huh. Now, I kind of disagree with him. I was 240 pounds. I don't know if you can tell I lost a little bit of weight. I rejected that. I actually bought the machine and I slept with it for a night and I'm like, no, that's not how this life is going. So, what did I do? Well, I had been meditating since I was a child. I grew up, my parents were Buddhist, but it wasn't a thing I did all the time. I just did it when I needed to relieve some stress or needed to really focus on something. It wasn't a practice. And I remember I read a book called Rebel Buddha, and it just tweaked my mind. I was like, yes, this is what I need to do. So I did. I started meditating every day, just like 10 minutes a day. And little by little, I just started to really, like, I'd already started to see this kind of like cycle of desire and success and desire and that. It started to really come into focus. But what else started to come out as I meditated was this identity that I had created, that I was holding in front of me, this suit. And I started to realize how much mental facility I was using to maintain this identity. And the identity was a little different with different groups of people. I don't know if any of you have experience with this, but you kind of like have a bit of a different personality with friends and coworkers and at home. And never shall the streams cross. Yeah, those are going laughs. So as I meditated, I started getting this insight of like, wow, I'm really spending a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to behave, how I'm going to act, maintaining this identity, this suit. So, well, what happens if I drop it? So I dropped it, and I just stopped drinking. Not like I tried to, it stopped. And I stopped going to all these business functions because a lot of the conversations are just kind of going around and around, and everyone's just talking about themselves and nothing's really happening. And I started to change, and I really dove into meditation. I have to just give a thanks to my teacher, Darlene Tateran, who's in the audience here. You know, she's been a blessing in guiding me on this journey. What I found out, and this is the important part, is beyond this sort of like cycle of desire and attainment that I stepped out of, that really happiness started to come just from being instead of like pursuing, was this dropping of this identity, tearing off this suit, freed up so much mental facility, freed up so much space, that now there's room for creativity. There's room for presence, spontaneity. So no longer are things being manufactured. I'm thinking about like, what are my talking points? What am I going to try and get from this person that I'm meeting? You know, what's my agenda? It's just, I'm just going to show up and see what happens. You know, and that seems to be where life happens. So, if any of you are struggling with this affliction, I have to say, give it a shot, man. Thank you.